Let's see if I can.
Are we close?
Yeah, I have 1 minute.
1 minute. Okay.
Places, everybody,
Okay.
places.
I have 11 o'clock.
Okay. All right. Next is our Shawnee County Extension. So Cindy, take it away.
Good morning, Commissioners. Cindy Evans, Director with K-State Research and Extension here in Shawnee County. Thank you for the opportunity to visit with you today about our budget needs, but also a little bit about an overview of our program, our mission and purposes. I would like to start by introducing the people who are in the room with me today. And I'm just going to let them pop up as I introduce them because we know they're all socially distanced and we've got board members mixed in with some of my agents here. Amy Miller is here. She's chairman of the board this year. Sherry Scheidemann is our vice president of the board. Linda Croucher serves as our treasurer of the board. And other members that are with us, Barbara Coltis and Angela Dake. Then agents that are with me today, Leroy Russell is our agriculture and natural resources agent. Susan Fangman is the family and consumer sciences agent. Ariel Whiteley-Knoll is our horticulture agent. Candace Mearpool is our 4-H and youth development agent. Lisa Martin is a registered dietitian and supervises the Expanded Food and Nutrition Education Program and the SNAP Ed grant. And then I work in the program area of community vitality. So I wanted to start out today of just telling you a little bit about who we are and how we got to this position. So the Morrill Act of 1862 established land-grant colleges to provide education for the working class, which was a new notion at that time. And so they allowed for the sale of public lands if they would build a land-grant university. And Kansas State University was the first land-grant university in the country. So by 1887, and if you take a look at that, you can see that really a lot of time passes there, okay? Another 25 years. And what they realized in the early days as they were trying to get more agricultural knowledge out to people who were settling in the West was they needed more new information. They needed research stations to create new knowledge. And along in that time, they realized that farmers and ranchers were not settling the West by themselves. They were bringing wives and families. And so when the Extension Service was established in 1914 with the Smith-Lever Act, they expanded that mission to what we just say, to improve the lives and livelihoods of people related to agriculture and home economics. And the learning never ends. We provide education that you can trust to help people, businesses, and communities solve problems, develop skills, and build a better future. There is research that is being done at all of the land-grant universities across the nation, and then collectively we can use that research in all of our programs. So when Susan has a Walk Kansas program, that's because they know that the kind of research that it takes for people to build a habit, how long does it take to build a habit, and also that when people exercise together, they're more motivated to stay true to the commitment to do that. You know, we see a lot of the research that is, of course, around agriculture, but there's research around all the components of the programs that we do. And even though our mission has never changed, of course, the programs that we do certainly have. We must remain relevant. And so it's important that we program around the areas that our individual communities will identify as important to them. So several years ago, we went through a process that helped K-State to identify 5 grand challenges, and this is where we focus our work these days: global food systems, health, developing tomorrow's leaders, and that's both youth and adult, water, and community vitality, which takes in a lot of program areas of volunteerism as well as personal financial resources. We elect 24 community members to serve as the Shawnee County Extension Council. And they divide 6 people for each program development committee, and they are volunteer advisories for the agents to help us identify program priorities and then partners in the community. It's important to identify programs we need to do, and it's also important to identify programs that are already being done so we do not duplicate. So those 4 program areas are agriculture and natural resources, family consumer sciences, 4-H and youth development, and community vitality. I gave each of you at your station the PowerPoint that I have today. I was laughing before some of you came in that I'm always afraid that, technology will fail me, so I want you to have that PowerPoint. But then I attached our current public value sheet. Now, it might be late nighttime reading when you can't quite get to sleep, but we found out about 4 years ago that when we elect people to that council I just mentioned, that most of the time they're coming representing an area. Maybe they know something about agriculture, they know something about 4-H and youth development, but they don't know about all the programs that we do. And we want them to be advocates for our programs. And so we started creating these public value sheets so we could identify by agent all the programs we are doing, the impact that we're measuring, but impact is to the people who attend. But there is a public value for all in the programs that we do. So even if you don't attend a program, why is there a public value to that? And I'm going to stop there because Amy is going to, I think, visit about that a little bit more when she wraps up today, so I won't try to step on that. But so what I did for you today is just one impact in each of the areas here so that you can see an example. 4-H is the largest youth development organization in the United States. It has about 6 million people in membership nationwide. It's of value to all of our community residents because it instills those qualities of leadership, citizenship, service, and caring in all of the members. Research shows that the kids who've been involved in 4-H are 4 times more likely to give back to their communities. And that's just one of many statistics. Candace was a part of a statewide survey that Candace did just a few years ago to really give us updated statistics on that. And the example of the photograph you see at the right is one of our current 4-Hers. Candace has been working with 4-H virtually on Facebook and promoting and posting our kids doing demonstrations and project talks, things that build their skills. The next one is one from Susan Fangman's program area. She is a certified senior health insurance counselor. And last year, during the open enrollment season for Medicare Part D, counseled 206 individuals, 112 changed plans, saving over $70,000 in health care dollars. And I just want to mention, this is not a duplicate of what's being done by Jayhawk Area Agency on Aging. It would be like if we only had 5 doctors in all of Topeka. You can't meet all the need. And that's the same way with all the senior health insurance counselors. We have never even advertised we are full because people find us from referrals and they come back. Extension held 4 educational programs for farmers and ranchers last winter. 115 persons attended, representing over 15,000 acres of cropland, about 11,000 acres of pasture land. And we've got impact reported on that, but basically all the participants reported that they learned recommendations that they were going to use in their operations. And right now that's so important because it's been a real hit to the agriculture industry, sometimes through drought and sometimes through these unusual conditions with COVID. So trying to help them to have a diverse operation that keeps them functioning is really important. Our Shawnee County Extension Master Gardeners, which we've got over 160 Master Gardeners, contributed over 8,800 volunteer hours last year, teaching classes, hosting booths, utilizing demonstration, private and public gardens as teaching laboratories. And that is something that I think Extension does so well in all program areas, is that we command a lot of volunteers that add value in our community. This is an effort that is very new that I wanted to feature because of a partnership between Lisa and also an employee here at the county. The Expanded Food and Nutrition Education Program and SNAP-Ed work to create partnerships that address food insecurity. But here during COVID, Lisa's been working with a committee that United Way is heading, and that they saw a need to have a food distribution map. And Brett Martin, who's the vice president, called up and said, Cindy, I just know Extension's the right place to put this map because of your connections to food and food insecurity and agriculture. You know, this is where people would look for it. But as we looked into it, the map program that we needed was something that was a little bit pricey. And we thought, who already has it? And actually the county and the GIS department already owns that. And Lee Allen was willing to collaborate with us and help create the map, and now Lisa keeps it updated. I just thought that was a really neat partnership, and I want you to know that we are here to be your partner in education. Last year in Community Vitality, I taught a board leadership series, had 33 people attend training, and that what they left with, they increased their understanding of legal and ethical issues that affect boards from 40% to 93%. 31% knew how to make a motion before the training, and 100% indicated they could at the end. And why this is so important is because people who do not know how to participate in a meeting are less likely then to identify themselves to be leaders, you know, for a group. And we need people to step up and take a piece of that action. And finally, 100% said that they felt prepared to serve as effective board members. And I added one more because health and nutrition is a big part of programming that we do, and I want an example of that. That during COVID with the safe-at-home orders, you know, a lot of people headed back to the kitchen and realized their skills could use some brushing up on. And so our nutrition professionals across the state worked on a series of fact sheets to help people be able to address those needs in the kitchen. Before I go on to our budget, does anybody have a question about our programs?
Questions? No.
Okay, very good. So for our 2021 budget, we're seeking a budget increase of $14,000. It's 2.33%, and these are the major adjustments. You're going to see that my biggest needed increase is on my salary line, $12,000, you know, right there. We've got a staff of typically 17 right now because Lisa was in the process of hiring for FNEP when a hiring freeze went into effect for the state. So we're down to there, but we typically, so now we've got 15. But their wages come from the state FNEP grant anyway, so they don't really affect ours locally here. So what I have, though, are well-versed agents. When K-State did a study several years ago, what the public wants most from us is a depth of knowledge. 5 of our agents have advanced degrees, and our 6th agent is starting an advanced degree. That is what the public wants, you know, is for us to really be able to find an answer to their question in the program areas that we have expertise in. So that's our biggest need. Yes?
Right. Can you go over for the commissioners, how many of your employees are K-State employees? How many are?
Yeah.
Because it's kind of split, as I remember.
It is. So the 6 agents are K-State faculty, and then we have, right now, 2 office professionals. We usually have a 3rd one, but so we'll have 3 office professionals. They are completely council paid, and then we have 3 program assistants. 2 are part-time horticulture. Together, they make up about a 3/4 time position, but because they're both part-time, we don't have to pay any capers or health insurance. And the other one is a full-time program assistant with 4-H. At one time, we had 8 agents, and we are down to 6. And so the change from the second 4-H agent was to a full-time program assistant back then. Then we've got the FNEP staff. Lisa is paid primarily through the federal FNEP grant that comes to the College of Agriculture. Our federal funding the Congress, to USDA, to NIFA. Okay, NIFA is the National Institute for Food and Agriculture is a subset of the USDA. So that's where the federal funding's coming from. This is a fully federal grant, and then her staff, they're all state of Kansas employees, and that is a grant. All of the SNAP Ed, all of her support staff, of which there are 3 on staff right now, and I said there are typically 5, are completely funded through that federal grant. The letter that I sent to you with the budget proposal has a handout that I actually will cover on one of my slides in a minute. But this one, about 4 or 5 pages in, tells you the contributions of K-State, both real and in-kind contributions. And actually, none of it includes the value of our state specialist support. They just tried to value the area staff. But there is a lot of other support that we get naturally from our state specialists as well. So,
And then these salary increases would just be for your employees, not the K-State employees,
no, it's going to help a part and piece of all of them.
including the K-State employees? They don't get their
Well,
increase?
not the FNEP employees, but the 6 that are council employees it will affect, and it will affect the 6 agents as well.
And how would you, if they're K-State employees, I guess I'm confused how you would
Well,
give
because
them salary.
there's a portion of it. K-State last year in the budget is just about $70,000 that they pay to the salary, and the county portion is the rest. And so we get paid by K-State and they bill us for the rest.
So
But they
this
pay for.
includes everyone, not including the K-State employees? the
Yes,
salary increase.
yeah, of the portion that we would expect that you would pay. I mean, I'm just budgeting the portion that you would pay, that we need for the budget, because K-State pays 100% of agents' retirement plans. And for example, locally, when I have a retirement of an office professional and we have to pay out sick leave or vacation leave, when an agent retires, K-State completely pays that. There is no cost to the county for that. It's a unique situation, no doubt, but we are billed monthly for a portion of agents' payroll, health insurance, FICA, all of that. There's a split. Okay. So I have just tried to identify the big areas because some of the budget things, only changed by maybe $100 or so. Now, since I turned this in May, I listened to, health insurance is always the thing I worry about, and so I listened to the Health Insurance Commission with the Health Insurance Commissioner talking about potential increases for the next year. And it looks like they have set the non-state group, which is what my council employees are in, at about a 3% increase. The state has not set theirs. I'm just estimating that maybe it's a 3% increase, which is much less than what I used to estimate. But I think instead of $1,000, I'm probably looking at closer to about $1,800 increase on that employee benefit line. And what is interesting is that with COVID, while some people thought health insurance costs would increase, according to the insurance commissioner, they have not, because of how many people opted out of elective surgeries that insurance companies have not paid this year. And so she didn't feel like they should just knee-jerk give the same kind of insurance increase, that had been happening. I tried to prepare for what I thought you might ask me. I thought you would ask, have we seen reduced costs because of COVID? And we have in the area of travel. Gosh, no one's going anywhere. we are in virtual conferences. And then even with the virtual conferences, the registration is much lower. And we expect that probably will continue. However, we also have some increased expenses. To date, we spent about $2,800 on plexiglass, PPE, more laptops because of people needing to telecommute. And our old laptops, my gosh, we like to use things as long as we can, but if they don't have the cameras in them, people really cannot be in the Zoom meetings And I've had cameras for our desktop stations ordered for, well, since April. I don't know, maybe they'll come by Christmas. But some of those things, you know, you just can't get your hands on right now. But those are the main needs, and the budget and the amount for the salaries, we are typically about 3% behind our peers on the salary line. I just don't want to fall any further behind, you know, than that. We gave about 2.5% increases last year, but that still keeps us about 3% behind. So we're just trying to keep working towards that. We are your partner, you know, in providing this research-based education here in Shawnee County. I've kind of already talked about, you know, this information of the county funds, where we get our state and federal funds, but we also look for grants and in-kind donations, and that is what helps us with the rest of our budget. The agents are very resourceful in looking for grants to help pay for supplies, but very few grants will pay for personnel time. And so, knowing that the number's a little small here, that's why I wanted you to have it on your slide handout. This is from this year's budget. So you can see that the county appropriation of just over $601,000 makes up half of our pie, the part in the blue. The green, which is the next largest area, is that federal grant for SNAP Ed, which is nearly $300,000. And then we've got our local in-kind that we found from grants this year, and in-kind donation of space, et cetera. And then we also have the KSU in-kind now, and that is the amount for technology, area office, things like that. And then the red part is the KSU salary and benefits with the actual dollar amounts for you. Does anybody have a question about that slide? Okay. I want to thank you for your support, and we'd be glad to answer any additional questions that you might have.
Do you have any questions?
Cindy, let's go talk about your travel expense that you've got budgeted. I understand the need for travel and for education, but currently, I mean, there's not a lot of conferences that are going on. We talked about it yesterday in our budget hearing with the elections commissioner, that a lot of places are going to virtual conferences, or do you think that number is accurate? Do you think it's maybe a little bit high if we aren't going to be doing the travel like we would want to do?
Yes, we could possibly bring it down, you know, a little bit, because when I turned that in May, you know, it's like, who's got a crystal ball to know how soon we'll have a vaccine and things will be going on? There's a conference that I often attend in Kansas City that I see thinks that they're going to meet virtually or meet in person, but I wouldn't attend, you know. And so I think they'll find that too, even with conferences that think they're going to try to go back to face, may not have the attendance. So yes, I would just say that we have already been real restrictive on our travel budget. Years ago, as the budget was tight, we went to just allowing one agent per year to go to a national conference. You know, that was a way of really squeezing down those kinds of costs. So I feel like, you know, we have pretty restrictive costs, but that is probably an area that, from what I budgeted, that we could probably do a little bit lesser than that with what I can see as the foreseeable future. You know.
When you come to some of your programs, such as the Master Gardeners, obviously we didn't have our flower sale this year or plant sale this year. That was a huge impact to the Master Gardeners. Are they looking at trying to make up that revenue loss from some other activities, or what are they doing?
I think I'll call Ariel up so she can just give you an update on what they're thinking of.
Ariel Whiteley, Knoll, horticulture agent. The plant sale, you're right. I'm so glad that you remembered that's our major fundraiser, and that should have happened in May, and that could not happen. So we decided to do a virtual sale, but only for our members. We just didn't feel like we could meet the needs of the community, because typically we rely on member donations the day before the plant sale, and that was just not something we could safely do. I will say I'm very proud of our Extension Master Gardeners. They not only bought every single plant in the greenhouse, our Extension Master Gardeners and office staff, thank you to everybody who purchased plants, but our volunteers made donations out of their own pockets. And I would say some donations were very substantial. So we actually brought in a little over $8,000, which is a little more than half of what we need for our sale. But then looking at our budget for the remainder of the year, which of course is separate from our office budget, we don't really have any expenditures. We're still purchasing some plants for our gardens and doing garden maintenance, but we're not doing any of our programs or events that typically we would use for that money. The Extension Master Gardeners are also very responsible financial group, and we anticipated that one year we may have a tornado that took out the greenhouse or a fire, and so they did put in reserve funds, and we will be using them.
Sure.
So they're in good shape.
Just as a suggestion for the master gardeners, and again, it's just a suggestion, a lot of estate sales that would have been otherwise in person have gone to online auctions. We see that a lot of times with a lot of nurseries have gone to online sales. And so just again, looking forward down the road, the line for, it's ridiculous the amount of people that show up for the Master Gardener's sale. And it's ridiculous that a lot of us don't go down to the Master Gardener's show because we don't want to stand in the long lines. But it may be more conducive to people if they have the ability to do an online auction or online. You might wind up with something more than, it may be a bust, I don't know. But again, just a suggestion.
I appreciate it, and I think this year was a really good opportunity for us to try things that we never would have tried before, and using the Only for Our Members online sale platform, I think that was a good way to test that. So thank you for the suggestion.
Even if you have used other platforms, I mean, again, if you look at some of, there's several estate sale auctions specialized just on Kansas. If you use somebody else's platform, and similar to Purple Wave, they charge you administration fee, but that way all you're doing is putting up the photos.
Right.
After that, you're more of a facilitator.
And I don't know that members of Shawnee County would allow us to do 2 years of not having a sale, so we may have to look at that for next year.
Again, that line is huge.
Yeah, we had a lot of disappointed, understanding but disappointed customers this year.
All right,
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Any other questions?
That was just the one that
A
popped
comment?
out at me. It's just on the travel costs. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
the only other thing is, Cindy, can you talk to the commissioners a little bit about the retirement contributions? Because as their full-time faculty staff at K-State, their retirement is actually from K-State, correct?
Yes, and K-State fully funds it. So none of your tax dollars is going towards the retirement contribution for any of the agents. Now, our local staff are the 3 that are CAPERS eligible, then that is paid from the council funds. So what you allot to the council are those council funds. And so I've got 3 who are CAPERS eligible. So we have to keep in reserve, we have to pay out 2 CAPERS, but then also keep in reserve the funds for payout of sick and annual leave. when they
What kind
retire.
of grant opportunities are available for you?
Well, it depends, as I look back over the years, the most recent one, the Culture of Health grant was $5,000. And so Lisa and Ariel coordinated on that. It was a way of trying to get people to look at ways that would make being well the easy choice. It's, a lot of times there's factors in the community that keep people from making those kinds of choices. We had a multi-year SIFAR grant, Children, Youth, and Families at Risk. That was a 5-year grant trying to interact with, again, low-income and at-risk youth. 4-H has had donations from a grant that, it was the correction system in Leavenworth, was it? Almost $10,000 from a donor. And actually, we also have, through our local foundation, I've got a private funder who has a desire to fund urban 4-H programs. And so that is money that I can count on every year, and we funnel to the 4-H program for after-school SPIN, special interest clubs, that Candace is doing. Trying to think, is there any other grants, Leroy? Oh, the big cost share soil test. How much money comes in a year from that?
$6,000 to $8,000.
$6,000 to $8,000, and that's huge, and that's been going on for many years. So that's for testing soil. Oh, yeah, the Johnsonville grant, that's from 4,000 up to 5,000 about now, been 3 years? A year. And the money from Johnsonville has been used to defray expenses for kids to attend 4-H camp. And then last year, Discovery Days, which was one of the biggest attendances of Discovery Days. We'd had, 16 kids maybe that went last year about? 18. Yeah, and then also some money earmarked for our 4-H King and Queen each year for scholarship money. So in that list, the letter that I gave you, each year I update that and identify where those grants are coming from and the program area that they are attributed to. So as you can see, and of course, even with like cash donations to 4-H, as we get ready for the fair, the prizes, we have a long list of donors that give money every year that we pass through to the 4-H Council for prizes. But we are not ashamed to ask free. You want me to come do a booth space? Can I have that space for free? That's how, we can get a lot of this done. So, and sometimes, we're surprised by some of the memorial monies, that come into. So those really help with the day-to-day expenses of program costs.
Any other questions?
Then I'll let Amy Miller come up and wrap it up for us.
Okay.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Thank you, Cindy.
Good morning, Commissioners. I am Amy Miller, and I'm currently serving as the board chairperson for 2020 for K-State Research and Extension, Shawnee County. I would just like to emphasize that with education, when one person is helped, others are touched by that person, and they also rise. While our local extension educators strive to reach as many in the community as possible, not everybody finds their way to us. Yet, extension education helps everyone in our county, whether or not they use our services or not. When Leroy helps a farm or a ranch family to make decisions to keep them in business, that helps feed our neighbors. When Candace guides 4-H leaders to provide quality interactions for our youth, research shows that those youth create healthy relationships with adults and grow up to provide leadership and service in our community. Aerial assists local homeowners and gardeners to increase the value of their homes, to increase our property taxes, and through landscaping and grow their own nutritious fruits and vegetables. Cindy's work supports our local entrepreneurs, and Susan helps our county residents to learn and practice healthy lifestyles. And Lisa with FNEP, which is our expanded food nutrition education program, teaches low-income households how to keep their families well-fed with nutritious foods when their resources are stretched. I can't say that there isn't a single part of extension that doesn't touch my life. Personally, on this last year, I had a friend that came to me and said that my neighbor is using my pastures for his cows, and I think that he's putting too many cows on the land because it's stripping it and it's not replenishing. Of course, I go to Leroy. Cindy, as a realtor here in Shawnee County, she went together and provided the Sunflower Association of Realtors Radon education. This was the first time. Most of the time when I heard from other realtors, oh, it has a radon system already installed, you don't need a test. I personally went into a house that had a radon system already installed, and the levels were at 16. The levels should stop at 4. So the radon system was not currently working. And again, I'd heard from so many realtors that, oh, it's got a radon system, it doesn't need to be tested. From that, the 75 people in my company were told about it, and again, I think more of them are testing for that reason. With COVID-19, my company was trying to find ways to reach out and also be more of an assistance to community. How can we be a community assistance? From being able to donate blood to, one of them was saying, well, should we all put gardens in our backyard and donate the produce? And then we could can it and then donate the canning. For through Susan's education, we know that when you can your own fruits and vegetables, it's not okay to pass it throughout the community. We don't want botulism or anything like that. Candace, as I'm getting my hair cut, my beautician's telling me about how her child is doing Zoom meetings and doing leadership and what they're doing with their animals and how the fair is changing. And then Lisa, with her Garden to Plate education to the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, she taught the Garden to Plate program through the Rescue Mission, the LULAC seniors, and CAPR to teach them how to grow nutritious fruits and vegetables. And I'm also a master gardener, which I absolutely love my group. I love all the volunteers. There's so much education. There's so many educated, retired people in this group. It's just an absolutely wonderful group. I'm so proud to be a part of it. As you know, with COVID-19, garden centers were selling out of plants. Everybody who hadn't really gardened in years were gardening. And we were providing free webinars. Everybody in our group, all of our agents, I think we're not only trying to meet the needs through webinars, but exceeding to still work and get that education out. And for Candace with 4-H, I am someone who can proudly say that in my past, I didn't get to grow up with 4-H. My parents didn't do that for me. And I'm not sure if it was real active in our area, but I got to go ahead and participate, and I spent one summer teaching nature at the 4-H camp. I did an after-school program where I got to teach kids that normally their parents at Ross Elementary were putting a bag of chips out on the counter for the weekend, and that's what they had to eat while the parents went off to eat, and I got to teach them some simple little meals so they could teach their families. But this year, with knowing that we could not do our community gardens, K-State did not allow us to go face-to-face. So my concern was where was all that extra produce that needed to go back into our community was going to come from. So a lot of us master gardeners now have 40 plant plus tomatoes, peppers, you name it, growing in our backyard. And we have a distribution channel of where we can actually send that fruit and produce. And who actually helped me put in my garden was a friend that I met at 4-H camp that is now a retired lieutenant colonel from the Army. So I've seen the people that I worked at with that 4-H camp for just one summer grow up and be on boards for education. They are in so many leadership positions. And so I can't tell you how much I love this organization. Is there any questions from you?
No.
Thank you for your
Thank you very
time, and I
much.
really appreciate your support.
Thank you. Turn to 1,
What's this?
back at 1.
Back at one.
We will be back at 1. And continue.